For me, it has come down to the point that being a dog trainer, it's mostly helping helping the human understand things with clarity. Most importantly, I like to help them. When we start, I like to build a bridge of communication and just shorten that gap, right? Because they don't know any better. So we use the market training system to be able to build these cues.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Leanne Shinton from Automation Dogs. Welcome to my podcast. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing Byron Flores from Canine Training with Byron. Hi, Byron.
Hi, Lynn. Hi. It's thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. You're a phenomenal human being. In my book, I've gotten to get to know you. We have a few conversations, and it is a privilege to be on your podcast, Leanne. And I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity to speak with you, and also to your audience and to the audience beyond. Give you guys some information and help, if anything, the information that I'll give possibly will help a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to have you on because when we were talking, you shared some perspectives that I think dog owners can really benefit from, and also some dog trainers too. And I only have a select few on my podcast, a select few dog trainers. So I'm privileged to have you here joining us. And I think you're going to bring a lot of value to helping other people. So maybe before we dig into some tips and information to help folks on their dog training, could you share a little bit about how you decided to be a dog trainer?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, many of us in our journey of life, we encounter situations that we don't know where it's going to take us, right? Things started developing in my end. So I come from a background of the pharmaceutical industry, marketing, advertising. So I worked there for many years, and previous to that, I was in an academic publishing company that I worked for. So it kind of set me up to move forward, and I got headhunted, and I started working in the pharmaceutical industry. However, with a period of time working there and learning a lot of phenomenal things, and I understood that there's more of me than just to be in these big branded pharmaceutical places that I work for. Last position that I held was I worked for the receiving department. I worked directly with the FDA and I was employed by Pfizer. And then during that
Wow.
period of time, I I was dating. I had a girlfriend back then, and she started dog walking, and she started bringing the dogs over to my place, and the dogs are really drawn to me, and I just started helping her walk dogs, and being in the industry of marketing, advertising in the pharmaceutical industry is just it burns you out. So I got burned out, and I decided to leave that, and me and my ex girlfriend Laura, we decided to open up a dog walking business. And during that period of time, I remember National Geographic had Caesar Milan on that, and he was very educational. He very open. There's a lot of everybody has their opinion, but I take what it's good for me. And the connection that I had and I understood, and I just started trying to understand what, because starting a dog walking business, I wanted to have an understanding, a context. Like I need context. I need to understand because I grew up with dogs, but here in America is way different. So that's where my journey began, and we started taking the difficult dogs that other dog walkers didn't want to take. So these dogs were reactive, or they were dog aggressive, or they were nippers, and that that's where we came in and we took these dogs. But when I started taking these dogs, I started taking them out. I started using started just working with a slip lead. A lot of these dogs, that was my go-to tool, and it still is, like a slip lead, and just getting to know the dog, walking the dogs, and then there would be times where the dog owners would be on the driving by the avenue, and they would like slow down, and they would see this dog that hated other dogs with like three or four other dogs just walking peacefully. They couldn't believe this, and so then that's where things started clicking for me, and I was like, I need to understand a little bit more of the dog world. I need to get educated. And then we had this client that she was volunteering at a dog shelter locally here in Bloomfield, New Jersey. That's where I'm from. I'm from New Jersey, and she decided to adopt a dog, and she already had two staffies. So she decided to get another staffy, a blue nose, and introduced it to her family. And it was just a short period of time that she had sent out. Back then, just the iPhone just came about, and you were able to text and send photos. And then we received this message, and then when the photo of Hank, his name was Hank, popped up, I was like, "Oh wow, what a beautiful dog!" Because she was a photographer. She took an amazing photo of Hank.
Mm.
And then I said to Laura, "Hey, you see this dog here? That's going to be my dog." Just like that, it came out intuitively. A month later, there was some situations that the dogs got into some serious fights, and the dogs ended up in the ER with draining tubes. Very, very, very. There was a lot of things that were done on her wrong, done at her end. She didn't know any better, you know. And this is not to blame the human. So she put up another. She sent out another message if anybody's interested in adopting this dog. So, I raised my hand and I got in contact with her and I was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm just gonna come by and, I'm gonna take the dog." And so the night that I went there, she kept them in her office, separate from the rest of the dogs. I got there and then and Hank was just barking and barking and she was like, "Oh my God, she'll let him out." I'm like, "Yeah, just let him out. It's not a problem." So when he came out, she had some treats on the counter in the kitchen. Before he came to me, he just stopped over. He's like, "These are the things that he does. He counter serves too." And I'm like, "Oh, that's okay." So he came over and put his paws on my lap, looked at me, licked my face, and I just said to him, "Ready to go home." His tail just wagged, and that's where really, really things really got more serious for me in this journey. And little did I know, his background, he was found, I think, he was backyard bred locally, and they starved him, and he was emaciated really bad. He had a lot of missing of his coat, so he was kind of sick. My journey from there, also because I'm into health and nutrition, I also wanted to get into, like, get an understanding of what is the best nutrition value for them, and how do I help this dog. So I brought him to a local vet and holistic, and that's where I started learning from Dr. Bukoff about health and nutrition and supplements for dogs. And Hank was an excellent candidate. So that's where I started combining health and nutrition, and also with the things, just taking out for walks, fulfilling the dog, playing with him. We just enjoy ourselves, and that started, like, really, like, I didn't know back then that I was just like playing with him, doing things with him, bringing him along, started introducing him to other dogs and making him part of a pack. And my clients, I had this huge pack of dogs that I would go pick him up, and he became part of that.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's where, like, literally you start asking yourself, "Oh, what else is there? What else do I do from here?" So that's when there was I got an email somehow. I don't remember, like, where I dropped my email, and I got a reply, and Caesar was coming to New York City, and I got to meet him there, and spoke to him about my dog. And I met back then he was married, and he had his kid with him, his youngest, Calvin. And he said that he was developing a ranch in California, in LA. And he said, "Once that's done, I will send you an email so you can come and learn." So in February of
Nice.
2013, I went out to his camp, and literally, I went out there, and very, very important things for me. This was like learning about my own self and how my mind, my feelings, my stories that I would tell myself would affect my connection with the dog, would affect me when I'm walking the dog. So it started getting really in depth, and it made a lot of sense, because when I was back in college, I took a lot of psychology courses, and I was able to relate a lot, this the stuff that I had in my background. So with him, I learned a lot about myself, and with Sherry Lucas was there, and Brian Agnew, I learned more about dogs, about using tools appropriately, using e-collar, using a slip lead properly, temperament, how to approach the dog, reading body language. So these were fundamentals that really, really, like, I've submerged myself in, and I started learning a lot of, just because I have a dog back home that he needs help, and I need to get him into a better state of mind, and I want him to become my helper dog. And that's the journey I was already deep in, and then and continue. And not only that, but then there were other dog trainers that are phenomenal, like and that I went up to upstate New York, and that's where I met Josh Moran. He's known as the Barefoot Dog Trainer. Um, Blake Rodriguez from New York City in the East Coast, but now he's down in Florida. Tyler Muto.
Muto, yes.
Yes, him. It's just phenomenal people that just I just believe
Mhm.
God put them in my life just for me to be able to really grasp and understand. If I'm going to help dogs and people, I need to get a better understanding. So that's what really put these tools on my belt, and this is what really has built me up to be able to be successful and be able to help dogs, and most importantly, the human, the owners. For me, it has come down to the point that being a dog trainer, it's mostly helping the human understand things with clarity. Most importantly, I like to help them when we start. I like to build a bridge of communication and just shorten that gap, right? Because they don't know any better. So we use the market training system to be able to build these cues, and just be able to have this conversation with the dog. But most important, it is just like also the tools that you use is also it's a bridge of communication, because when you put a leash collar, a leash and a collar or a slip lead, you're still going to have these conversations with your dog. And I remember Tyler, I remember he put out a video about leash conversation, and it was just phenomenal. It's just like, yeah, it's just like everything started to flow, everything and these are the things that I like to use when I'm working with a dog and the owner, and that's where everything starts to open up. And most importantly, I like to tap into the owner's conscience, right? I want them to be conscientious with what you're doing with the dog. Most importantly, you're not allowed
Yes.
to use the phone with me. You got to put your phone away. You got to put it on like on airplane mode. I want you to focus on me, because the things that I start seeing, the things that I start pointing out in our surrounding when we're doing work is very important, because when I start tapping in, I start tapping into the human. I'm making them self aware, and I'm going to make their life so much easier, right? And then we drop into leash mechanics. You got to know how to teach these things to the owner. They got to know how to posture their body. Got to know how to communicate properly with the leash, because that's very important. Then you can move on and scale up into retractable leashes, whatever you want to do. But what I know nowadays is a lot of people, they don't know any better. These, right? It's through perception, and you see them a lot with harnesses. They graduate the dog, they give them this driver's license, but they don't know how to drive. So that's where we come in, and we have to be more. We have to, okay, great. We can use that. That's going to be the graduation. That's for graduation. But let's go through the course first, so then we were able to give the dog the diploma, and you have a better understanding of how tools really work.
Let's dive into one topic there, because thank you for sharing. I love that story and how you were open enough to see, hey, dogs are going to be my future. Dogs are cool. I just love that story and how you got to meet Caesar and he invited you out. That's so wonderful. But while you're on the topic of the communication and the phones, and let's talk a little bit about maybe some bad habits that pet owners might be in at home right now with their dog when they're out there walking and they're
Mhm.
checking their phone.
Yes. So a few days ago, I had a lesson, and I'm working with this young lady. She's from Jersey City, literally like a few miles across the river from Manhattan. She lives over there, and she adopted a dog. Never owned a dog in her life, but she loves dogs. And her family, her dad is a big time with dogs. Her mom, she never owned a dog, so but her, I'd say her grand dog, as I called her, she's she now loves the dog, right? Because they've seen the transformation. So we've been doing like about 6 lessons so far, and she just wants to keep going because she just fell in love with the things that we're doing, and it's the transformation. And she's just really, really opened up. I opened her up to so many things, and she doesn't want to stop there. Now we're going into doing some tricks, getting the dog to weep through your legs, calling the dog, putting the dog on a position. We're moving ahead, and she's just having a good time, and her dog just has transformed while we were walking, right? Because when we meet, I want to see them in action. I'm just a stranger there. I want to see how you're doing. So I'm able to get a full picture of your progress and your dog's progress. So like that, I have a more understanding of what we need for the day and how we're going to link that new lesson with all the other lessons that are behind. So there was a gentleman coming down on the opposite of us when we were in the park, and he had a beautiful dog on a harness. The dog was walking calmly, but as we were getting closer, right, I noticed that the dog tensed up, started getting tensed, and the gentleman was on his phone, right, and the phone here and the leash here, and the dog was just guiding him.
Mm.
So so Malvika looked at me. I'm like, yeah, I see that. I'm like, so you know the lessons. I gave you good instructions. You know what you got to do. She's like, but she wasn't sure because she started getting a little nervous. So okay, I was like, all right. So I was like, here, take my dog. Let me get your dog. Her name is Cherry. So it's a little bully breed mix with a black lab. So as he started approaching, we started getting closer. I started reading him and her and his dog, and the dog started putting closer, pulling and pulling more, and I saw that he was getting a little intense. As I was passing by, he launched at me and Cherry. So Cherry has changed and dropped those bad habits, but Cherry kind of responded. But at the moment that we were using the psychic, just a little pressure, just shut that down really quick. You know, she settled down and we just kept walking, and he just kept walking. But the owner, she was like, she took a breath. She was like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "She hasn't done that in a while." I was like, "Yeah." I said, but I said, "This is a great lesson. This is perfect. I want see these are the things that are going to happen, and with time, it's going to go away. Even if the dog passes by and lunges, the dog is just going to take a look and just keep moving forward." The thing is, like, you can't get tense. You know what you have to do. So that's where the leash mechanics come in handy. That's where the respect and the love comes in when you're paying attention to your dog rather than on your phone. Because
Hmm.
all this could have been avoided at his end, right? If he already knew, oh, my dog is pulling me, let me move him on the outside and I stay in the inside. But he didn't even move his dog, right? But there was enough space for people to pass through, even runners and joggers and people on skateboards. Like, people just pass by, zoom by, not a problem. But so that was for me, that was so great to see where we are. And I was just, okay, I got to do a little bit more work with you with the handler. That's a more of a handler situation. I was just like, we can't panic, because the moment that you panic, also the dog is going to feel that, because dogs feel that, they smell it right away. So they feel like, okay, if you don't have this, I truly don't believe you are in control of the situation. So I'm going to help. We cannot let that get to that point. We have to really, really give the dog context, because dogs are brilliant, phenomenal. When you give your dog a lot of context, the dog understands. The dog's like, yeah, okay, you got this. No problem. I'm just gonna keep going. And that's the goal. That's the goal. And the more we do this continuously, right, over and over, repetitively, guess what? We just cut and paste. We cut the bad behavior and boom, we pasted in the new behavior. This is the new you. The old you is forgotten. And that's where the magic happens.
Oh, I like how you said that. That is cool. I wish we could do that for like other areas of our life too. Like, don't eat all that food, go work out, paste in the new me. That was that cool thing you said. I see it here all the time when I walk my dog and I'm walking around the lake and there's geese and the geese have babies. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, this is so beautiful. And I see everybody's on their phone with or without their dog. Just everybody's on their phone nowadays. And it's just doom scrolling. I don't know how I could walk and check my phone and walk my dog. Like, wow. And the other day we saw some fella and he had the pit bull breed and checking his phone. And you could just see the dogs starting to eyeball the geese and the little babies. And,
Oh,
he just, we had to go the other way because we were going to say something, just running these geese out. And the guy's just still on his phone getting dragged around. But it's just such a disrespect to the dog.
yeah,
And that,
but so let's use this analogy. So can you imagine if you were out walking on a beautiful day with your date,
mhm.
and all of a sudden you decide to pop up your phone because later on you're gonna go watch the Knicks and the Spurs play in the finals, and your friends are texting you, hey, psyching you out, and you're holding hands with your date. And all of a sudden, it's just like, oh man, I need to get to that bar soon. You start dragging your date. Your date's gonna pull her hand off and probably yell, and you'll be like, hey. You are
Yeah.
so disrespectful. Why are you on your phone? Why are you stop talking to me? And all of a sudden, you're all about your phone.
Yeah, this is
So
your time together.
yeah, it's like this is us. This is the us time. This is the time that we talk about things. We put things in perspective. We have plans to move in together, and this right here is making me think that I don't know if you're really ready
Mhm.
because you're ignoring me. I have to be your priority. The priority when we're handling our dogs, that's our time. That's their time. Is our
Mhm.
time, and
Yes.
that's where you really grow and where you really develop. And literally when you get dogs with issues, and when we start working with a professional dog trainer and they start helping you and you start putting in the work, that's the magical kingdom that you're walking into. That's where things get erased. That's when things start really happening. And then you're just going to come home so psyched, and you're going to text your doctor, hey, it was such a great walk. I did what you told me, and I was paying attention to my dog. I was so aware of my surroundings. I was aware of the people walking their dogs, and that's really our. Then you did your job, right? That's when we're like, yeah, did my
Yeah.
job. I'm so happy. Things are clicking, and really, that's what puts you ahead of the game, and that's what really I think you get those recommendations because you make people feel safe. You empowered. You are coaching. That's our job, right? Clear communication, examples, samples, show them the body language, show them how to handle the leash, call it out when they're not really focused on the leash, they're not focusing on the leash handling, right? Because we at first, like, handling a leash is like riding a bicycle, and we have to show them how hold the leash. Once these things start disappearing, then you can just one hand walk, a lot of slack, and the dog is making contact with you, walking happy. Hey, this is great. I'm feeling good. You feeling good? Yeah, me too. Yeah. And that's literally that's what we want on the walks. That's
Yes.
what we really want. We want to enjoy that moment because dogs don't have a long lifespan. And the period of time that they're here to help us and to be partners with us and to be our best friend, it's not that long. It flies by. Time flies by, and all you're gonna have left are memories.
Yeah, it's kind of making me think too, because you mentioned, you're into health and things like that. Like if you're at the gym and you're working out, but you're really just checking your phone, those repetitions are basically useless. And every time you walk your dog, you're
Mhm.
getting out there, you're getting in this repetition, this walk with your dog, but you're not putting in 10% maybe effort to
Yeah.
just hold the leash. You're missing all those little things, like the ears come up, the body changes. You missed it because you're over here on your phone, and it's just not good quality work.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of like builds frustration because the handler gets frustrated. Oh, you're doing this again. It's just like, well, you're not paying attention to me. I'm in my own world. You're in your own world,
Yeah.
and this is the result. And that's why also is very important. Like the things that we do outside, it always has to have a context, and the context is indoors, right? When I go in people's homes, there's going to be times that I'm going to ask you to tether your dog because it's just much easier to help your dog, right? We got to give them context. Like if you're working on your dog and we're using the place cue, and we're just holding it there, but we want the dog to have freedom. It's not about imprisoning. Many people use the place command in like an imprisonment, an encampment, like you don't move from there. Like no, the dog is allowed to move. It's just like you just got to let him know if I had a wife and she was cooking and all of a sudden I'm just where we just came back from a walk and then he wants to go sneak over there and start like because dogs are very smart. They'll come and they'll push their cold nose into you and be like, hey, you got anything for me? And then you're using the stir fry. And you're like, hey Byron, can you handle this? I'm like, and then that's when you just call your dog, hey, you're like, hey Kalua, over here, go to place, stay down, girlfriend. You know what I mean? So it's just like everything that we do with dogs, it has to be done in a way that it makes sense. It's not restriction. It's not boot camp. It's part of life, but we have to show the dogs. We can't just have an expectation that he'll figure it out, she'll figure it out. It doesn't work like that.
And like you said earlier, you take away one behavior, replace it with another good behavior for, the situation that you just described in the kitchen. We're going to take away the bad behavior. We're going to replace it with the good behavior of putting them on their place. Maybe the humans also need to take away that behavior of scrolling on my phone while I'm walking my dog,
Hmm.
or driving my car, and create a new behavior of I put my phone in my pocket and I don't touch it while we're on that walk, and I focus on my dog or focus on my driving, for example.
Yeah, and it's the thing about, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when we start working on the outside, I usually ask them. I'm like, okay, so here are the rules. I give the human the rules, right? Rule number one: no phone, no communication, unless you're a doctor and you got a 911 call from the hospital. That's an exception, unless you have some kind of, you got to put out some fires or something. But it's our time of I want you to develop. I want us to be successful. The goals that we have, that we place, that you have, and we're working together to making these goals happen. Let's make them happen, but let's do it the right way. So that's where, like, no phone, pay attention. And it's like the only phone that I probably that's going to be used is going to be my phone, because I'm probably going to be recording it, and I'm going to send you the video of what you're doing, so you keep this in mind, how beautiful the work that we're doing. So you look at this, you inspire yourself before you go on a walk, and you start seeing the changes. And that's why, for me personally, it's like I need to tap into a human, right? Because those habits that you have, they're gonna start going away with me.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be like, hey, remember, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. You have to be mindful of yourself, and that's part of coaching. That's part of coaching. It's just not the markers and the cues and the practice and this. And no, it's more so the human is more important, because they're the driver behind that. And we need to have power steering. We got to know how to use power steering correctly, smoothly, be able to make a turn, be able to bubble out of situations. If you see your dog is getting a high stress, and you start feeling the stress because there's a group of people and they're all walking their little yappers, and and they're all barking and barking and barking, and nothing's being done because the people are just talking and their dogs are doing their own thing. So what you got to do, we have to be very smart. We have to be in this situation. What I would do, and I do it, I just bubble out of that situation, give them space, give myself space, bring down the intensity, the level, the cortisol level. Don't let it escalate. Rather, I want the dopamine. I want to change. That I want it to be fun. I want it to be good. I want the dog to feel good. I don't want my dog to be under that hormone stressor. That no, we just have these. That's where we come in. This is where we come and teach them. Learn to bubble out of the situation and come back in. Just give yourself space. Give them space. It's just like there's no need for me to be. Hey, pay attention to those. No, I'm not there to be.
Yeah.
I'm not there for that. I'm here for you. I'm here for my dog, and I'm just gonna be the wise. The person that's more intelligent, and just go around. That's it. Simple
Yep.
things like that gives also the dog a better context, a better perspective of how things are done, and the escalating, and you giving the dog a better choice, right? And at some point, when you run into a situation like that again, the dog is going to do one of these. Like, hey, you already see that over there. You know what we got to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's the communication. That's what I like to tap into, the human. Hey, this is being conscious. Now watch how your dog starts reading you. Next, the beautiful thing now is, like, when the dog starts walking in, I was always checking in with you. It's always like, are we doing good? Yeah. And that's the beauty of, really, when you give good instruction to the human, good teaching, and also you handling the dog, me doing the hands-on first, then giving it to you, and that's through practice. And really, the practice is what's going to help the human, because we're not trying to convert a dog owner into becoming a dog trainer. No, we're there to make the life of the dog, the life of the human, pleasant. The goal is pleasant, happy, and joyful. They go out happy, they come back home happy, rather than going out making this a frustrating situation and coming home pissed off.
And I like that you use the word, de-escalating, and I have to encounter other dogs all the time where I just don't like the way they're looking at my flirty, and, I don't want her in that situation. I'm fine to give a little bit of space, but I'm also thinking 10 steps ahead. Is that dog going to slip that harness and be loose and come after my precious angel? And now what do I do? And I'm thinking those 10 steps ahead. I'd rather just de escalate, give everybody some space, get out of their threshold, and yeah, set everybody up for as much of a positive experience as it can be, because we can't control those other people and their
Yes.
dogs.
100%. And the thing about that you just mentioned is so important is that using backup collars, whether
Mhm.
it's a slip, whether it's just on a flat collar or whatever, or a pinch collar, or even if your dog is on a harness, you need to back that up because anything can happen. Anything. It's a catch 22, and your dog get hit by a car. If it slips out of that, freaks out of noise, or something happens, or the dog slips out and goes and wants to chew on another dog. And we don't want to go on that route. So therefore, for me, I also like to very important for me as a precaution and also a safety habit that I like to let them know is like I introduced a backup. Just back it up to your flat collar, whatever you're using. Just back it up because dogs, especially if you're working with a reactive dog, and depending on the intensity, they also they shake their head, they try to get out of that they don't want to be in control and they want to do their thing, and that's where we have to at times use a little bit of defensive handling just to de-escalate that and bring the dog back into calmness you know so but there are times that people have lost their pets also, have taken off because of a loud sound. They've no backup, came off the harness and see and that's very detrimental.
Yeah, I used to work in animal emergency, and July 4th, the next day, like that night and the next day, it was just people bringing in these stray dogs that hopped a fence or whatnot because they behave differently in a fear state, just like I would behave differently in a fear state. Like when I have to deal with heights, I'm like, I can't even barely walk. Like my legs just turn into jello, and like things are different than normal state. So I really think that's such great advice, and maybe folks may think, well, my dog's never pulled out of the harness. Um, but maybe just pointing that question at yourself, can you ever think of a time where they would have pulled out of the harness if they could have, or they tried to? And if that is something that's ever happened, it could happen. They could get away, have that extra safety. Maybe it's a slip leash, or they have clips where you
Y-
could clip the harness to the flat collar so you have something
yeah,
else in place there.
yeah, that's very, very I think is a safety precaution. Like, oh, my dog's
Mhm.
never gonna do that. We can't never Don't say never. There's always a chance that that can happen. A loud noise, a loud bang, you're walking and you're walking, and all of a sudden maybe somebody's pulling out that's parking, somebody's not is on their phone and crashes into the car that's pulling out. That's a loud bang.
Mhm.
You're going to jump, you're going to jump from, like, you're going to get startled, your dog is going to get startled, and that's might be the opportunity. The dog takes off, and maybe I know a lot of people that they use flat collars when they're walking their dog as well, and they're not really fitted really well. You can see them hanging, and it's just like that's concerning because I'm like, I, I I know people have lost dogs for days and eventually have found them. And thank God that they got that lucky, but not many people are that lucky. When your dog is gone, it's gone. And another thing is just what people have the bad habit is leaving dogs unattended and in their backyard. And in your backyard, you have birds, you have squirrels that come by, and they want to entertain themselves. Maybe they want to chase it, and if you have a young dog, and depending on the breed, and I know many dogs love squirrels. Squirrels are very smart. They entice, they communicate to them. And it's just like, and I've seen dogs, like you said, jump a fence, end up down the road, like, or in somebody's backyard. And I had a client that the dog was a chocolate lab. His name was Buzz, and she had the electric fence, and she used to leave the dog unattended. And I used to tell her, to be like, don't leave your dog unattended because Buzz loves birds, and he wants to retrieve them wherever they go, and he wants to chase squirrels. And one day I was in her area. I was actually walking one of her neighbor's dogs, and I came out, and all of a sudden I hear something, but behind the bushes, I'm like, is that a dog? And then Buzz comes out. I'm like, Buzz, what are you doing here? I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, oh man. And I was just, I brought him back home, and I was like, ding dong. Um, we did talk about this. I just found your dog by the park. It came out of the bushes. I'm like, something can happen to him. He could get hit by a car. Yeah, you're on the main
Yeah.
road. So she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed by it." I'm like, "Well, just this is a bad habit." I said, "Don't leave them unattended because And but that was a learning experience for me. But it was kind of a funny thing just to see Buzz, because he was a really goofy, funny dog. Like, in the sense of, like, he was such a sweet dog, very intelligent, but he had this thing. He was a escape artist, and her fence wasn't high enough, and the electric fence, he had the electric shock collar on him. He just blew right through that, and
Wow.
and I found him, and I was like, wow.
Wow,
So.
lucky you were there. And, I've had this advice before, when us as dog trainers ask clients, potential clients, like, "Hey, has your dog ever escaped before?" They may think, No, 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 he's never escaped." But if you ask the question a little bit differently, can you think of a time where your dog almost escaped or escaped because maybe the dog ran out that front door and you tackled him and you got him back in. So he didn't technically escape. So it might not come to mind, but
Mhm.
just as dog trainers asking, "Hey, can you think of a time where your dog almost escaped or where you were out with your dog and you thought, hey, if he got away right now, he probably wouldn't come back, maybe the thunder or the loud noises." And I think it's good for dog trainers to ask those types of questions, but also for owners that might be listening to turn that question on themselves and make sure they share that information. Like when I dropped my Belgian Malinois extreme vertical world champion off at the vet, I tell him he can hop right out of your kennels. Oh no, our kennels are 12 feet high. No problem. He can hop right out of your kennels and he will just meet you in the front office while you're having your lunch. And sure enough, they called me to tell me that. I'm like, I told you to put a lid on it, but make sure you disclose this information to the poor people who are watching your dog, like
Mhm.
Buzz, so that the pet sitter, the dog walker, the vet knows, and then you don't end up in a sticky situation like that where something bad could happen.
Yeah, and it's funny because her neighbor one day told me a story that she found Buzz by the pond swimming, like, going. She's like, she's like, "Is that Buzz?" I'm like, and she called Buzz because Buzz has such a great wrinkle. He was literally, he wanted to retrieve some bird from the pond, and she called him, and she had to place that call, and she's like, "Hey, I got your dog here. He's at the pond swimming." Like, oh, Buzz again. But
That's
that was that time. This is before I found him again. Like, by the bushes, he just popped out and with a smile. Dogs, they come out like with a cool smile. I was like, oh, he's smiling at me. I'm like, hey, Buzz, that's you. It was so funny. But these are the kind of things, and thank God, like, these are experiences versus, you find your dead dog on the side of the road. And that's why you have to be careful, kind of the kind of dogs that you get as well. And if you're gonna get a retriever, they're smart dogs, and they always want to. Dogs have their own mind. They want to experience the world their way. That's why it's so important for us to experience it with them and show them, give them the context, give it to them, create those thresholds for them, create it's like how far you can go. If you want to run them off leash, get an e-collar. That's your insurance policy. An e-collar is your insurance policy. Make sure you know how to use it properly. It's not to light up a dog. That's one of the things that I don't advertise. It's just because I'd get calls and people just want to use. I was like, oh, I have my dog on an e-collar, and it's my dog has anxiety, and I've been using an e-collar. I'm like, how do you think? How is that helping the dog out? I said, do me a favor, take that off. Don't use that. That's not for a situation of stress, for anxiety that your dog is going through. Said there's something going on that maybe your dog doesn't need that. We can use more, something better. Maybe I can help you. I can help you. I could do a consultation. Come and look at your dog and see what's going on. So, and that's one thing, is just like the way I remember, and I think some of these big platforms, these stores that they sell them, like Amazon and these other big platforms are selling these collars, and it's just like those are they come they come from China, and no, you don't want to use that. And first of all, that's a language that needs to be layered. That's not, you just don't put a collar on and start zapping it. No, 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 no. That's a language. We have to teach the dog. We have to, transfer everything from a regular collar, whatever you've been using. It has to be layered into the dog. Everything is a process. You can't just have the expectation I can use this tool and the dog gets it. Really? yeah, the dog will get it, but you have to teach them step A, B, C, D, E, and you keep going down. And then when you get to the final lesson, it's like, then you will see the results. So, so for me, yeah, definitely, I love e-collars. They're great. You got to know how to use them properly, humanely, with kindness. And you also have to, that's another language that you have to teach that to the handler, right? Because they're fantastic tools. People love going on hikes, especially summers here. People want to take their dogs for hikes, but also when you take your dogs for hikes, well, remember there's a lot of wildlife out there as well, and something might come around, a beaver or deer, and they want to go and chase it. They want to have a little fun and have you might want to let your dog go. That's as far as you I can see, but then recall your dog back, and just a little tap tap, come back, and then it's just like, okay, coming back. I know what that means, right? So then you create your threshold. It's it's easy stuff, but you have to put in the time and you really, really like lift. You have to do it. If you want this success, I like to work with people that totally are 200% down to do the work and they have fun in doing it. It's not something boring and it's not something that, that many people look at it as it's not a boot camp. It's not. It's like people call, oh, do you offer any boot camps? I'm like, well, yeah, for humans, but not for dogs.
Yeah, and you mentioned too, you're getting success by putting the work in. Also, if someone's out there with their dog and they're getting those negative repetitions of he's just running after squirrels, I'm calling him, he's not listening at all. It's just reinforcing that behavior. So it makes it so that you have to work a lot harder when you're trying to change things because they've created this pattern of I do this, I'm addicted to this behavior. And now it's going to be even longer to get that success. So the sooner you can get started with a consultation, I think with Byron, that way you could start moving away from that like negative behavior and into closer to that success.
100%, yes. And everything, starts in a quiet place. Everything that we start, because the owner has to learn to communicate, and we have to start indoors quietly, practicing the things that we want to set the dog up for success, and the owner, through repetitions over and over, and it's not boring. And then we take the dogs out to the big leagues and we start testing it out, and that's when we get that context from them. Okay, I still need to work a little bit more in this. I need to work a little bit more in that. And then you just go back into the lab, you start doing it again, the more repetitions over and over. And then if your dog wants to chase squirrels, this will be the great opportunity, because if you're 200% with your dog on the recall, as soon as you let the dog chase a little bit, right, and the squirrel runs up the tree and it's like 300 yards from you, then you just call your dog back. The dog was like, okay, I'm coming back. But you can also, but then now you have now that you're paying attention, now that the dog understands, now that your relationship with the dog is amazing, and the dog believes everything that you tell your dog, because you have created this relationship of kindness, of love, and respect with the dog. That's what really, for me, these are important ingredients that we as dog trainers have to teach the owners, that it's not much different than when you're teaching your toddler things how to eat with a fork, how to use a cup, a sippy cup, the right way. you know it's just the same. You just have to be very patient. Don't have the expectation like the dog doesn't speak our language. There's a different species, but with patience will take you very far, and repetition. And then you have to have somebody that understands this really well, a dog trainer that's really going to help you understand these concepts and walk you through this journey. And you're going to enjoy doing that you're just going to be like, wow, I want to hang out with you more. When are you going out with dogs? Like, I want to bring my dog out. Can bring your dog, let's go for a walk. Right, we want to create that environment where it's just like they're calling you, hey Byron, I'm going to be at the park, you're going to be around. Like, I want to go ahead and go on a nice walk, and I want you to see what we've been working. I want to see the progress. I
Love
want you to
it.
see, like, that's a beautiful thing, because yeah, I want to take my dog out as well. I want her to enjoy the outdoors too, and she, not only that, she gets to meet these dogs and she knows them, right away. And I also, one thing that I love to use my dog at times is just with these reactive dogs, because she knows how to communicate with me when the dog is getting better. Whenever she sees a dog that we're working and he's in a bad state of mind, My dog gives the dog space. She moves away. If he tries to get close, she starts moving away from the dog. And I'm like, okay, And then when we start working and we start going through these lessons, she's just like, gets up close. They kiss each other on the nose. And that kind of that they build that respect. And the owner's like, oh my God. I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, and and that's how it is in there. When the dog is a little bit too much, too hyper, and the dog wants to
Mm.
say hello in the bruff, coming into my dog's face, my dog is just like, no, I'm moving away. I don't like that. And then she looks at me and she's like, hey man, you gotta handle that. I don't like that. And it's just like, okay, okay, I got it. So that's why we have our dogs too, because they're helpers, right? They know what we're doing. They they're riding this they're part of the journey. They're riding this ride with us. And for me personally, I could speak for myself. I don't know anybody else, but this I love using my dog for certain things, especially when we're going out and use her as that thermometer for that reactivity or for that aggression that is starting to disappear on my client's dog. She would just move away. She's like, nope, I don't trust him.
Smart dog, smart dog. Now, I wanted to pivot a little bit because we have about 15 minutes left. And I know that you work with shelters and you've worked a lot with fostering dogs
Yes.
to place them in the right home. Could you share a little bit about that stuff?
Whoa, 100%. Oh man. So I worked with Clifton Shelter. It's a local shelter in Clifton. I've worked with them. I've worked with Brick City Rescue. They're really well known for they like to rescue the bully breed from the big shelter in Newark. Is one of the big shelters. This is where the dogs come from, the south, southwest. They all come and get loaded there, and that's where the rest of the small shelters go and get dogs and bring them to their shelter. So they also go and pull dogs out of that shelter. And what happens is just that been working with them for years, and I've been able to help a lot of the adoptees the adopters that adopt these dogs. And but there's also times where I have taken dogs that have been a little bit difficult, that they really cannot go into a home until I reset the dog, until I get to know the dog really well. So I want to get as much as information, and the dog comes and lives with me. So I foster the dog. So while the dog is in training, I'm also going to take dogs, and I've kept dogs for 3 months at times, until we find the right home. And for me, that's very important because remember, the dog is coming out of a shelter. We don't want the dog going back to any shelter or the dog return. So cases like that, where the dog has been difficult, or a case not so long ago, two cases that the dogs were deaf. And these dogs have spent like 9 months in a shelter, and nobody knew that the dog was deaf until I got to see the dog. And I'm just like, well, he's not responding. Like, I think there's something not right with his hearing. So then they will send them to a specialist to just get tested, to the veterinarian to make sure that the dog is deaf. And yeah, they confirmed, yeah, the dog is deaf. So for me at that time, it kind of like frustrated me inside. I'm like, how can you not know that this dog is deaf? And this piece was there, and the dog is not even you. He spent with you 9 months, and the dog is over a year old. And out of being like 12 months, 9 of those months, the dog, you picked him up from the street, and you didn't realize the dog was deaf. And this is where like these and I tip my hat to these people, that these groups of people that take these dogs from shelters and try to do right. But we need more fosterers, people to foster these dogs. We need that. The shelters are full, and I have a big heart. And not only that, is it's just that the experience that these dogs come from the shelter that they give you personally. They are so grateful after this few 3 days and this 3 weeks and then 3 months with you, and it's just like this dog is completely transformed. We went from how he was to how he is now. And then we find him the right home, and I it's just so fulfilling for me internally. It gives me so much peace, and it just gives me a lot of joy internally, because it's just I feel so bad. I don't know if many people have been inside these shelters. They're overcrowded, very loud. A lot of these
Mhm.
shelters don't offer vetting for the dogs, so you don't really know what's wrong with some of these dogs. Are sick, so that and you get to find out only when you pull some of these dogs out of there. And and there's so much that these small groups that can do, like Brick City Rescues. There's so many dogs that they've done, that I mean, they have done phenomenal work. And I love working with them because they're so so about the dog. They want the best for the dog, and how they raise money to pay for the vet bills. That's not cheap. It comes out of them. It's a not for profit. People they're not profiting from this. They're trying to make a profit to pay for the bill. You should see that $10,000, 20. They were at one point like $40,000 in debt in vet bills. So that for me is just like I'm gonna pitch in. I'm gonna do me, and I got that dog. I'll foster it. I'll do my training. I'll work with the dog. I'll do my thing, and then I start posting things up with the dog. This dog is it's for adoption, and then and then people, start calling. They get interested, and they get in contact with the organization. And Byron is like, hey, they're gonna call you. Let me know what you think. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let them know to come and check out the dog. So I want to feel the person out in person, not by the phone. So they come and check out, and then next thing you know, it's like I had that experience with this deaf dog, Marco. Like his whole family. I'm talking about mother, father, son, daughter, grandma, and grandpa came to check the dog out. I was like, wow. when
Nice.
when I got a call from concierge downstairs, like Byron, you have some visitors, and I'm like, okay, I'll be right down. I already knew who they were, so I brought down the dog, and I was like, oh my god. I was just like, which one of you is adopting a dog? And then introduced myself, and it was like, oh, it's me and my husband. These are my kids. This is my mom. This is my dad. And it's just like right away, and it's because these are people who love dogs, and once they hear the story behind with Marco being deaf and being at a shelter that for 9 months, and nobody knew that he was deaf until he was pulled out, and it's just beautiful stories that they start negative, but they have a happy ending, and a forever home for the dog, and these dogs thrive. And for me, working with these deaf dogs, not this is a little bit more and more of a case where now I got to teach body language, sign language that I use with dogs to communicate with them. Many people that they go into an e-collar right away, and they start using, not the stem, but they start using the uh
Vibration.
the vibration. But I like to start first. Like I always say, like for me, it's always like, let me just use the slip lead. Let me start with these things that I know that I want to connect with the dog first. I want him to open up to me. I want him to trust me first. This is very important. And even when dogs go from my home to another home, I'm just like, hey, give the dog like 72 hours to settle in. We have to educate the owners, and it's like the dog might not feel comfortable at first, but just he's gonna start feel comfortable. He's and certain dogs just go and they're like, okay, I know this is my home and I'm staying here, and not even 24 hours, and they're sending you a video. Oh my god, look what he's doing. He's hanging out with us here. He's eating his food. We're enjoying the dog. We're walking. He walks nicely on a leash. He doesn't pull. We love what and then I'm like, great. I'm like, I'm looking forward to doing our lesson on the weekend. And that's the beauty about this career, when as the dog training career is just like, you get to meet amazing, beautiful dogs. They have some of them that come from shelters have this horrendous story, but that's the past. We stay in the present moment. He's in safe hands. Now he has some good food, some filter water to drink. He's hanging out now with other dogs. He's in a nice place, and the transformation. That's what we need to do, right? The transformation of dogs, the transformation of humans. It's just it goes hand in hand. So that's the work that I do, that I've learned. And for me to get to this point, it's just you develop this by learning, and learning from your mistakes, because we make
Mhm.
mistakes. Okay, we all make mistakes, and we learn from them. No matter how of an expert you are, you will make a mistake here and there and over there, but those mistakes are valuable, because
Mhm.
that mistake is not going to happen with the other dogs that are coming in down the road, right? But that's part of the lesson. Is like, me as a dog trainer, yeah, I'm open to always to learn, because I don't have all the answers, but I will get those answers, and I will be able to deliver those answers.
Now, in working with the shelter and working with the rescue, it would definitely be such a value to someone to get a dog that you've fostered because you've done the training and you really know that dog. Uh, would you recommend, if somebody is looking for to rescue a dog, that they maybe reach out to a rescue that sounds like they might know more about the dog versus the shelter?
Yes, I think if if you're looking for a dog, and you have to go to really a reputable dog shelter. because some of these dog shelters do hire dog trainers that come and work during the day with the dogs and help them, right? But then also you have rescue groups that really put work in and money into the dog, and they will be able to, like, to tell you, to give you more of a context and understanding of what
Mhm.
the dog, what how the dog was and how the dog is and what the dog really is all about, right? But there's certain dogs that for some reason, from backyard breeding, they always get these the 5 weeks they get pulled. They don't have that full that full socialization and nurturing from the mom and the siblings that are in that. It creates an issue, behavior issues down the road. That, yeah, the dog is going to be comfortable, and those dogs, from my personal experience, that have cannot be around other dogs just because they could be around humans, a cat, but with other dogs, it's just they get very uncomfortable, right? Is a fear thing because they never had that experience that as, and it all comes down to genetics at that point. So, but I've also seen that those dogs can hang out with a calm dog.
Mhm.
And sometimes I've seen dogs like that that have thrived at a home where the senior dog is a senior, and it's really calm, and that dog really has become best buddies with the dog. Like, even though this dog couldn't stand other dogs, it becomes good friends with that other dog. But it takes an experienced dog trainer to help you with situations like that. But for me
Definitely.
personally, I think that to go, yeah, go with a rescue group, because they will be able to give you more of context. In the shelter, remember, the dog is in the, he's in a kennel. They take him out for walks. Some trainers will work with them, but you're not really getting that full context, that full understanding of their personality, how they really are. So when they ask, oh, they're good with cats, we don't know. We don't know if they're good with cats because I have a cat in my house, and I'm a dog person, but my husband loves cats too, and now all of a sudden I love cats too. But we want to bring a dog into the house, and it's just like, hey, yeah, I can help you with that. And then the thing about that is, through training, teaching the dog, giving the dog contacts, asking, just teaching. You have to create thresholds in your home, and eventually, I've seen dogs and cats hanging out down the road. It's not a 24-hour, 48-hour thing that's going to happen like that and within 2 days. No, it takes a little bit of time, and it comes from us. I teach you the things that you need to do. You follow the protocol. You stay on the protocol. You don't experiment. Don't get out of the protocol. And you will see that next thing you know, all of you are watching a movie together. The cat's right there, the dog's right there, and you're all hanging out together, right? Because you did things right. But if you're gonna go and experiment, try to do this and that, now you created more work, and then in order for us to get to that point, we're gonna have to do more work. But it's doable. 100% is doable.
And I like your advice that, folks could go to a rescue and get more data about the dog. Not that you don't wanna help them all, but I definitely think there is a layer of compatibility, just like if I'm looking for a spouse, there's just certain things that are going to match up better than maybe another. So having more data to make sure the dog's going to be compatible with your lifestyle, your family, kids,
Mhm.
cats, all of those different variables, just to make sure it's like the perfect match. I think having more data can always help.
100, yes, 100%. That's why, like, now I realize that Marco being deaf and the whole entire family came, and the whole family fell in love with him just because he's such a great normal dog, except that he was deaf, right? But they even loved him more because of that. They were drawn to him even more because they were to see the sweetness. And when I communicated with the sign language, giving him commands through sign language, and they were like, oh my God, and it's just like, hey, they're like, oh, that's so easy. I'm like, yeah. I said, you're just using some signs, and he understands, and this is what we worked, and you're opening the doors to his home, and he lives a wonderful life. So they love him. And things come up down the road, and I will show up at their home, and then we'll just tackle a little situation here and there. And they're like, "Oh my God, we never thought about that, Byron." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's something simple, simple little things sometimes." But there you
Mm.
go. They're not dog trainers. right? They're dog owners, and that's why they call the professional to help, and that's where we come and just, make the day happy. I make them happy. Yeah, yeah, here you go. This is what we have to do. This is it. Not a problem. I'm here to help you, and when we tackle the situation, and at the end of the day, everyone is happy, and the dog is good.
Yep, and it's simple too. I like that. Keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method. And sometimes people overthink it or they just don't realize, because they got other stuff going on with their life. They're in chaos with taking care of the kids and everything, but hire an expert because maybe, someone like Byron, you can come in and just simply just resolve the situation that they didn't even think.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyone that one has some goals that they want to help their dog have a better relationship, you can always reach out to me through my website. It's letter K number 9. It's all one whole word. Letter K number 9. Trainingwithbyron.com. Um, just reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. And if you want to learn how to run your dog off leash, I'm here to help you. You want a better relationship between your dog and your cat, I'm here to help you. If you want to get your walks better, I'm here to help you with that. If your dog is reactive, I'm here to help you with that. Your dog is human aggressive, dog aggressive, I'm here to help you with that. We will be able to I'll be able to help you with these situations and just get your dog into a better state of mind, and make them see the world differently than how the dog is seeing that world right now. We could change that up.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other things you'd like to share today before we wrap up?
Well, no, yeah, I just want to say, I want to share with you guys that, for me, I've never owned a dog from a breeder, but the dogs that I have rescued that are my dogs have been phenomenal, just phenomenal. They just have given me a beautiful life, just how they are, and how grateful they are. So don't be afraid to get getting a dog from a shelter. You're doing a great deed, But if you prefer to get a dog from a breeder because you care about the genetics, make sure you find yourself a
Mhm.
reputable breeder. You make sure it's not a backyard breeder, because there's a lot of that going on right now, and it's hurting the shelters. They end up in the shelter. We don't want dogs ending up in the shelter. So just be conscientious of that when you're ready. And if you want me to help you find a dog, reach out to me again. I'll be more than happy to help you find the dog that you need, not the dog that you want, the dog that you really need for that's going to fit your
Ooh,
lifestyle.
yeah, well said. The dog that you need, not necessarily the dog that you want. Well said.
Yeah. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me on your podcast today. Really, really grateful for this opportunity to be able to talk to you and to be able to share a little bit about who I am and the work that I do and how I do it. And I welcome everybody, that I'm not racist. There's a lot of that out there. I welcome everybody, that I'm a dog person. That's our common ground right there. I love dogs. I love humans. I love helping humans. I like to service myself to others, and that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Byron, for joining us again, everybody. So it's Canine Training with Byron. Thank you, Byron. That was just such a wonderful conversation. I'm sure it will help people.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this, and I hope, I hope this helps anybody that's struggling with their dog. That something that you might hear here might hit home. You know.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody too for listening. Again, I'm Leanne Shinton from Automation Dogs and have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Have a great day.